Elizabeth I may have been non-binary claims. Shakespeare's Globe. Academics working for theatre have cast doubt on the gender identity of one of England's greatest queens. Now, remember, of course, that she is sort of the, I don't know how to put it, Chamberlain or Churchill, I suppose, more of her day. 1588, face of invasion. The Spanish are on their way. The Armada is coming up the Thames almost, and she says, I know I have the body but of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king. Now...
actually Nick Dixon's catchphrase, isn't it?
I'll take your word for it. Is that what you're semi-retired?
Oh, I have the everything of a king.
She's now been presented in an essay by Shakespeare's Globe as it refers to her in the gender-neutral pronouns of they and them, which I thought was very interesting indeed. The essay defends Shakespeare's Globe, announcing the new... and it all comes off the back of, as well, Joan of Arc. There's a new play called I, Joan, in which Joan of Arc herself is presented as non-binary, also given the pronouns they, them. I think it sort of is a story that is absolutely, I don't know how to put it, hilarious or something a bit more serious than that. But I love the fact that you are given a different pronoun by the Telegraph, or at least the Telegraph will report it, just for saying that you are tough as bricks, to be honest with you, which is what she did. So,
yeah.
Well...
I don't say good luck to her.
I mean, look, I think Nick's going to be against this.
Are you?
I don't know why.
I don't quite know what my position is. I haven't quite made up my mind. I think my position is just like, what a great story. There must have been, as they were writing that, as the paper was going to the stone, thinking, how can we get someone in a colourful shirt on headline as aggrieved? And
I have a lot to say on it. So I'm waiting for Mark to allow me to.
Well, do it. Sir Nick of Dixon.
Because I'm going to scorch the
Knock
whole...
yourself out. And you know what we're going to do now? David and I, we're going to go and get a coffee.
No, look, I mean, it's absurd. I mean, apparently the fact that Queen Elizabeth had the heart and stomach of a king is enough to make her non-binary. That's absurd. The essay says, from Dr. Kit Hyam, that while living and working among men, it may not just have felt like gender defiance. It may have had a profound impact on their sense of self. Well, the word may is doing an awful lot of work there to retroactively claim people are non-binary. It follows the Joan of Arc thing, who wore trousers and went into battle, but also wore men's clothes, partly to avoid rape in prison. And also, there was a thing where they tried to make her wear men's clothes in prison, because that would go against her agreement, which would mean she could be executed. So that doesn't make her non-binary either. And there's been attacks on this kind of thing from feminists, gender-critical feminists, etc., saying it's misogynist. I disagree with that. I think even though the outcome might be misogynist of these kinds of things, because you end up with biological men taking over from women, I don't think it actually is misogynist. I think it's the woke ideology moving through its hierarchy of oppression, just tearing through it. So you start off attacking men, especially straight white men, then you move to women, because after all, they could be straight and white and they're not gay. Then you move to gay people who are not trans. And that's what happens. So that's what I believe is happening. So that's why so-called women are being erased. It might end up misogynist, but I don't think that's the root cause. But yeah, sorry for taking that story very seriously. And David thought it was a light-hearted story.
No, listen, it's fair enough. I think the bottom line for me was, if I didn't wear this tonight, I was going to wear a ruff and codpiece. So this sort of speaks to my Elizabethan sense.
You had me at ruff and codpiece. David, before we move on, I think some females will be offended at the idea that, this great female figure of history like Joan of Arc, or indeed Elizabeth I, is now sort of cancelled as a female. So, oh no, women, you can't have Elizabeth I, you can't have Joan of Arc, I'm afraid, because they could have been gender neutral. I think a lot of women won't like this. They will feel cancelled. What's next? Do we go back and say Emmeline Pankhurst, who's the woman who campaigned for female suffrage, she wasn't actually a woman either? Do you understand where some of these gender-critical feminists are coming from?
I do, and I dare say people, if they would like to be offended by it, are perfectly entitled to feel offended by it. But to my mind, I don't. I look at this story, and this is maybe the difference, is that I can't help but look at this story as if it's like a very, very early April Fool. To think to somehow weave together what potentially was a puff piece for Shakespeare's Globe, knowing full well that it would rattle some people and get them talking. I don't know, but
the Globe have been very proud of it. They put out these tweets saying we're using they them pronouns for Joan of Arc.
100%.
People have done it. We're not the first. We won't be the last. They are the ones making a big thing about it, aren't they?
Although isn't that the point about theatre, though, that it's all fantasy, and therefore what they're doing is just playing around with genders? I mean, actually Joan of Arc has been gender neutral in the past, or even male. I think Joan of Arc was played by a man in the 1930s.
Yeah?
In the West End. But there you go.